Good morning, Kings. Time for your morning motivation. Just ran 5 miles this morning, communing with the Most High. Got a message for you this morning. So, my message this morning, your morning motivation is don't get distracted. There's a lot of opportunity for distractions to take you off course from what your purpose and what your goal is, what you set out to be. I know if you're breathing, you know me, I'm breathing hard right now. I received a few of the comments, hey, you breathe hard on your videos. Hey, scroll to the right. I would have just ran probably 4 or 5 miles. That's why I'm breathing so hard. But without that, I know if you're breathing, you didn't see a lot of incidents that's been transpired over the course of this weekend. You know, there's a lot of lootings in response to George Floyd's death, and people are really acting out emotions and doing destructive things. And I'm not here to judge what another man does, but I'm just here to encourage you to do something more constructive and positive. I'm free, you know, and I'm not going to use my freedom to put myself or others in bondage. And I just encourage you to do the same. So don't get distracted by senseless activity. Like, who's doing the influencing? Are you being influenced? Are you influencing others? You know, everybody know that there's things that going on right now, there's consequences and stuff behind it. And I know some of you thinking like these riots are the consequence. And I beg to differ. You know, this 2020 has been rough on some people. It's been hard in 2020. But you know, they say 2020 vision to help you see clearly. And I believe this year is going to be a defining year for a lot of people. It's going to be able to be a deciding factor in people's lives if they accomplish their goals, or do they watch it go by the wayside. Because by the end of this year, you're going to clearly see who was on purpose and who was not, who was distracted. There's opportunities for you to be distracted, for you to get off course, and I'm telling you, your actions are going to decide what happens. You know, everybody that know me coming up, I was a big Tupac fan, you know, and I remember one of the songs, he says, what was I to be? A product of this heated passion. Mama got pregnant and Papa got a piece of ass. You know, whatever you're doing right now, you birthing something. So that passion that you are displaying right now, believe me, there's another person that's going to have to carry that. That's going to have to bear that burden of you and your lawlessness. So are you planting seeds of righteousness? Are you planting seeds that are going to grow? Are you planting something that's going to be a stillborn? You know, something that won't flourish. Like, I understand there's heated passions and in the light of the things that transpired. But the reality of it is, we got to direct that passion. We got to direct that energy. You know, energy is never wasted. You know, it cannot be destroyed. It can only be transferred. So why don't you use that time to transfer that energy to something else, to something productive? You know, get on purpose. You know, I don't think George Floyd died for people to get a new TV, to go plug it in their house and sit in and be more lazy to get away from the purpose even more. You know, so that passion you're displaying, put a purpose behind that passion. You know, I should tell people, especially young people that I mentor, don't disqualify yourself. Allow yourself to change your mind later. You may not want to do A, B, and C right now, but don't disqualify yourself from that. Meaning that you go down and you get in trouble and you do lawlessness and you're the one that's going to get caught. Because a lot of times, the people that get caught weren't ones that instigated the incident. You know, they're the ones that was, you know, influenced by others. They just had an opportunity to do something. You know, somebody else broke the window on the store. You just ran in because you see other people ran in. You the one get caught. You the one got the felony. You the one that, you know, distracted from your purpose, trying to overcome that now. So don't get distracted by that. A lot of people say it's easy to get distracted, you know, when you're oppressed, when you're mad, and a lot of people got all these stories behind it to justify it. And I'm not here to judge you about what you feel is right or wrong. There's some things that I knew was wrong, and I justified it as though I was right. So I'm not here to to place judgment on you for doing that or doing this, but I know that in myself, every time I justify, it turns out to be just a lie. So really get down to the root cause of why you're doing this. Is it off emotions? Is it off a feeling? If it also your righteous response to an egregious act that was done against people that look like you, and that has been historically continued over years, over decades, over centuries, this is how you respond. You know, I'm not no pastor, and then everybody that know me, I'm probably far from that. I'm a sinner. I need a savior. But and you know, in the book of Nehemiah, it talks about in Nehemiah. I'm not going to recount the whole story because I just told you I'm not a pastor. Get in and read it for yourself. But in the book of Nehemiah, it recounts a young man that had a vision to go back and restore his city, and he had a vision, and you know, he was young and didn't know how he was going to do it. The place that he wanted to restore was in ruins. It was nowhere to its former glory. And it was a large task at hand, and he thought that the people there would be supportive of him. But some people wanted to live in ruins. They got comfortable in ruins. So he continued on his purpose, and he goes back to try to rebuild the city, and he meets all kind of obstacles along the way. But he was there to rebuild the wall, and he wasn't distracted. He had a purpose. He seen the destruction. His heart was broke by what was going on to his people, and he knew their potential, and he knew that all they needed was a leader, someone that would reach back to them and just start the process, get started. So I remember recount one of the stories when Nehemiah was up in the tree and he was up there building, and you know, there were some people to come in with all kind of accusations about what he was doing, and if it was righteous, if it was right, or if it was wrong, and they wanted him to come down to deal with it, you know. And Nehemiah, he responded, he's like, hey, I'm on purpose. I'm on task for the Most High. I don't have time to come down and deal with you haters. I know that's my translation. He didn't have time to come down, you know, because he was too busy focused on his purpose. So that's my encouragement to you this morning. It's like to stay on purpose. You know, sometimes you got to stay high when your haters are low. You know, you can't come down and deal with them on their level. You got to be able to rise above that. And I know there's a contradictory thought that's out there in the people that's viewing this video. It's like, hey, we always take the high road. You know, why can't we get revenge? Why can't we, you know, show how hurt that we are? You know, I'm tired of, you know, like the Martin Luther King marching, you know, nonviolence. It's time to show a response, you know. And if that's the route you take, then, you know, that's the route you take. But that's not the route that I'm choosing, and that's not the route that I'm encouraging other people to take. So I'm gonna tell you a story. As you know, I got a story for days. Excuse me. And this one, you know, there's a lot of stories from flight school because flight school taught me a lot about myself. And in particular, there's this one flight maneuver called instrument flying. And you know, before we got to this maneuver, you know, you had to get comfortable in the aircraft. You know, you can see everything around you. I mean, it's beautiful scenery when it's bright and clear day, kind of like today. This would be a beautiful flying day. You know, you wouldn't necessarily need instrument flying all the time in something like this, because you can see, you can maneuver, you can see when you need power, you know, the collective, the cyclic, you know, how to move it, and you can decide pretty much how to maneuver around obstacles because they're visible. But instrument flying was designed for those days when you can't see, when it's cloudy outside, and when it's dangerous, and you really got to know your environment. You got to do your map recon. You got to study the map to see what is the highest obstacle in that area, and then you got to fly above the highest obstacle so that you don't hit something and, you know, end up coming to a demise by the product of you hitting something. So when you're flying by your instrument, sometimes the instrument will say one thing, but your body will be feeling something completely different. And that's where you got to kind of trust your instruments, and you got to they tell you not to fly by the seat of your pants, because your instruments will tell you that you're flying straight, but your body will feel like you're in a turn. So the dangerous part about that, if you start making that turn based off your feeling and not your instruments, That's what they call flying by the seat of your pants. You're flying by your emotions and you're flying by your feelings. And that can lead to your destruction, because although the instrument is telling you you're flying straight, if you make that correction based off your emotion, now you got incorrect information, and now you just put an improper input on your collective or your cyclet, and now you could be leaning towards your destruction, and you're thinking that you're doing something that's going to advance or to save your life, but the exact opposite is that you're doing something that's going to destroy you. So sometimes you got to fight through that emotion and be able to listen to your instruments, and because the instrument's going to be telling you the right way the aircraft is. It's not going to be emotionally and tell you how you feel. I mean, your feelings is, fragile. I mean, your emotions and stuff can go here and there, but the instrument is going to tell you exactly where that aircraft is flying. And if you listen to your aircraft and you done your map recon enough to know what's in your area and you're above that height, then you'll understand that, hey, although I'm feeling this way and my body, everything in me is trying to get me to turn, everything in me is telling me I need to come down a little lower, and then you get into a point of destruction. I know you might say that I'm going a little too deep into the aircraft analogy, but I'm going somewhere. For those who don't know, I mean, you probably already do know, but when it goes to, it seems like this truck come by every day. It's on my same schedule. Well, I'm out here grinding this truck. I guess he out here grinding doing this job too. Wait till he passed by. But the example I was just giving you is the same thing that happened with Kobe and Gianna when they demised. The day was cloudy, and the conditions were not favorable for flying, at least not flying visibly based off what you see. So based off the pilot, and it was an experienced pilot that did that, but they call it spatial disorientation. And spatial disorientation is like, all right, when you are disoriented to your position in space, you are unaware of what you're doing, and you're making corrections that are not in line with what needs to be happening. So with Gianna and Kobe, on their flight, their pilot, an experienced pilot, made that simple mistake of spatial disorientation, and it led to their destruction because they didn't have a part in who was flying, who was carrying them to this place. So, and it happens. And some of you are experienced people, and you got other people piloting you into a store, looting, piloting you into a bad situation, and you following them. So who's leading you? Are you being influenced? Are you influencing? And I know a lot of people won't address this type of topic, but especially when you get into churches, they're connected to the state, so you got to realize that they're kind of hand-tied by what they can and can't talk about, because we're about the funding. That 501c is important. They don't want to lose that, so they want to address these issues. That's how, when it comes down to time for elections, they can shuttle people in to get you to vote for them, but they can't speak about some of the injustice, the things that's going on. So who's influencing you? And I know at times it may feel like God is silent in times like this. And what do you do when God is silent? And you want your revenge and you want justice done. What happens when you've been praying and God hasn't answered, and he hasn't made that, giving you that audible call from the heaven saying, my son, you're on the right path? And I can tell you this, that his son experienced the same thing. Yahshua, when Yahshua was on the cross, that he experienced that same thing. The heaven shut up and it was quiet, and he had a choice on the cross. Do I stay up here and save my people and do what's right and endure these lashes? This is a king, a heavenly king. He was a king before he came to this earth. He didn't have to earn his kingdom. He was royalty. He lowered himself to come down to us, but he had a choice. The heaven shut up, and it was quiet when he was on that cross, and he had to make that decision like, hey, what do I do? And then he had people mocking him. Yahshua had a thief on his left and right, and one told him like, hey, if you really the Son of the Most High, come down and save yourself. Save me too. Just why are you up on this cross if that's your true position? And there were a lot of people that would say that they would try to manipulate your position and get you to do something lower or get you to get off purpose. And I tell you what, I'm so glad that Yahshua did not yield to the criticism, to the indictment on his strength and his character. And there were people that say that if you oppose rioting, if you oppose what's being destroyed, then you're not black. Hey, real talk, I'm not gonna let y'all manipulate my melon. I'm melanated, so there's no way you can tell me that just because I don't have a certain stance on something that I'm less of a man or I'm less black than the next man. If that's your stance, I'm tell you what, I'm gonna stay up in my tree and I ain't coming down to deal with the haters. And real talk, like Yahshua didn't do it, Nehemiah didn't do it, so there's been examples. And you might say, wow, why are you calling them Yahshua? And we may get into it later, but I want you to do your research. The letter J was not invented until about 500 years ago. So, and the reason they Yeshua or Yahshua, when they translated, they added the letter J because they figured, the name was too holy, and they didn't want to be blaspheming, so they didn't want to speak a holy name with themselves being unholy. So they made his name start with a letter J so they can make it a little lower. So what I'm saying is that you're calling on the Most High, but you call him by his lower name. Now, if you call him by the lower name, is he the Most High? I'm not going to answer that for you. That's for you to do your research. But in times of this, I need the Most High. So I'm calling on Yahshua for guidance and for direction and making sure that I'm on task and on purpose. And that doesn't mean perfect. I mean, people will say, well, if you're on task and on purpose, why does A and B happen in your life? Hey, I'm not perfect, but what I am going to do is get better. And when situations come, you can do the I or you can do the E. You can get bitter or you can get better. When you become bitter, you become a victim. But when you become better, you become an example and a role model. So the choice is yours. Your morning motivation this morning. I know it's still kind of long. I've been trying to get these under 10, 15 minutes, but I'll be having something to tell you. So if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, chew the meat, spit out the bone. If you disagree or whatever, that's on you. But whatever you do, make a decision and move forward or grow forward. Have a great day, Kings.